Hi there. Welcome to another edition of Dear Nightram. Okay, so we're going to go from the earliest comment. I got like a ton of comments, which is great. A lot of enthusiasm for a video like this. So let's just hit it right off. The Comedy Room asks, what is your oldest piece of merchandise? Well, there's a couple of things in my collection. One is collectively rare, and one is just I've had forever, as long as I can remember. This piece is probably the oldest piece I have versus the 1977 Duck Hunt video game console system, but toy-wise, I mean, I guess you could call that a toy. That is in a separate part of the house, but this is the 1981 Coleco Mario figure that released. It may have been 1982 when this series came out, but it's still probably the earliest Mario figure. And these are the rest of the figures in the set, which I have somewhere around. There's also a Donkey Kong Jr., but this was the original set. And that's about as good a card as I have gotten. It still has the hang piece tab intact. There's a little bit of a bend on it, and the card has yellowed for being so old, vintage. And then you can see it was sold for $2 at KB Toy Store, and then someone marked it down $3 for $2. I did not pay $2 for this. I forgot what I paid for it, but it's pretty good. It's pretty good condition. Thank you. Couldn't think. This is probably the oldest thing in the collection room that I have, and I think I teased on this. Pac-Man came out in 1980 in May, right before summer of 1980. Huge game, of course. I don't know if this is official. I just don't know, or if it's a knockoff or what it is. We had several of these. It's quite obviously Pac-Man, but I can't find images of any branding. I remember it having this little hang tab. I don't remember it ever having a tush tag or anything like that, and there's no evidence of it on the plush. This is probably the best condition one I had. Most of the eyes fell off the ones that we had, but yeah, there's not much to him. He's a very fluffy plush. I think this is the one that not many people played with because the other ones were carried around, or maybe this was an extra. My mom had a history of buying, if I liked something, she'd buy a second one so she could trade it out, but maybe she never traded this one or something. I'm not sure. So many questions. I have to do some research on this guy. I did some but right before the video, but I couldn't find this plush. If you know anything about this plush, let me know. If it's a knockoff or what. I mean, it's quite obviously Pac-Man, but it would be so easy to sew. I don't think my mom made it. But yeah. And I don't think he had an eye on the other side. That was just one of the other things that was weird about this piece, is he only had one eye. If I remember correctly, which, who knows. There you go. Oldest piece. Thank you for the question. Koopy Troop asks, what's the most unique piece in the collection? Well, I've got quite a few really weird items. I've done a lot of videos on weird items I own, but the item that always comes to mind is this piece right here, the shower power. I don't know who thought to license a shower head with Mario and Luigi, or why they'd want to. Luigi is awfully happy to see you naked in the shower, isn't he? And that's a really weird picture with the kid there, because I guess the water didn't show up in the shot, so they animated it on, and they actually made the shower head kind of a cartoon as well to make it pop, I think. So they kind of drew over it, but the kid's looking like it's hurting him. I don't know. It has scald protection. It's got a built-in actuator for scald protection. It's a handheld shower. Comes with a two-way fixture, stationary showering. It's the whole thing. New safe. New generation of safe shower play. Say that 5 times fast. Wow. This was made in Taiwan. Lee Matthew Enterprises LME. Incorporated in the USA. From Hackensack, New Jersey. It's an officially licensed product. It says the seal is your assurance that Nintendo has approved the quality of this product. 1989 Nintendo, but that was basically the license. I'm learning that if it says like 1989 Nintendo, that just means that that's the license year. So everything was licensed in 1988 to 1990 of this early vintage weird stuff. So there you go. That's most unique item, I think. But there's some weird stuff in here. Okay, Super Mario Collecting asks, what is your favorite Super Mario collectible? Oh, that's so hard. How do you narrow it down to one item? You can't. You can't do it. You can't. Studio Sheppin asks, touching memories. What touching memories do you have with family or friends from your years of collecting? What a great question. Well, one of the cool stories I have is getting this guy. I've actually had two. One was bought on eBay, and I was living in an apartment at the time, and I had it shipped to my parents' house because I didn't want it a huge box shipped to the apartment building. So I shipped it to my parents' house, and I forgot to tell them that it was coming. So this gigantic box with my name on it shows up at my parents' house, and they're like, "Hey, Brett, what is this?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, it's that giant statue I bought." And that Mario lived at my parents' house for its entire life, I think. I never had enough room for it for the longest time. And he had a black stand on the bottom to prevent him from falling over that I don't think was part of the original statue. I don't know. It could have been something added by the store, or it should have been added. I don't know the story behind the little black mat, little black stand that he stood on, but this one doesn't have it. So I got rid of that one. And then the next one that came into the collection room, I actually, and this is a weird story, I never ever check Craigslist for stuff, because like stuff's just not in my area. Merchandise stuff. There's lots of gaming stuff, but it's really odd to find stuff in my area that has Nintendo. So I was just like, I was bored, I think, one day, and I was searching listings on Craigslist for Mario, and there it was, Mario statue. And it was a picture of a guy that had it next to his dishwasher in his kitchen, and I'm like, I got to get this thing. I got this. It's time. I'll have a little bit more. I think I had more room to put him someplace, so I'm like, okay, now's the time. I'm going to go get this Mario statue. He wanted, I think, $800 for it. I think I talked him down because I figured because it was in his kitchen in a small apartment that he needed it gone. I talked him down to $600. So that was, at the time, and for quite a while, that was the most I had spent on a figure. And well, we'll get to another question later that has more to do with that. But so that's a funny story about that. Another funny story, I had started the video game memorabilia museum forums, and that was where I operated for quite a long time during my big years of collecting, trying to get all this stuff in. And I made a lot of friends during that time, and actually there was a couple that met on my forum, and now they're married, and I don't know where they're living, and I'm not going to say their names or anything, but that's just a cool story. Like, I made these forums, and then people met on these forums, and they met in real life, and they hit it off, and now they're married. So I kind of have a little bit of a hand in that. That's neat. Okay, so touching memory. Miguel Angel Lopez Gutierrez asks, What item did you spend the most to get, and do you regret getting it? No. I think the most I've spent on an item before First Four Figures started releasing really, really expensive statues. It was this guy at 600, and then the World of Nintendo cabinet. So that was another weird story. My sister-in-law was at a pawn shop near her house, and she's like, "Hey Brett, they've got a World of Nintendo cabinet. Is that something you'd be interested in?" And I was like, "Oh yes." So I go to the pawn shop and I try to make a deal with the guy, and at the time people were telling me that the cabinet was worth like $200. I'm like, wow, that seems low. And the guy wanted a lot of money. He wanted like $2,000, I think, for it, which seemed really high. So I had this astronomical dip here, and we tried to negotiate a little. I tried to research it a little bit more, and I was looking at curios actually, because I wanted a nice cabinet for the rare stuff. And I'm like, this would just be perfect. I'm going to try to do this. We had budgeted about $1,000 because the curios, like just trying to buy a curio at that point, I'm sure it's gone up since then. They're really hard to get at a good price because they were mostly wooden, and then added with the glass and everything. Even getting a really cheap one was going to be expensive. And I looked at some like old retail and retail outlets and stuff like that did stuff like this, and they were still right around $1,000. I got the guy to come down to about 800, but it's more than I wanted to spend at the time. Now these things are worth way more than that. So, but displays have gone out astronomically high. So it was cool. At the time I felt I spent more, but now I'm happy with it. And then the Bowser statue, I think, is the most expensive things that I bought recently. He's a hefty price tag. Hopefully they don't do a whole lot more statues of that size, but you know they will. They're head turners. Okay, we are at this one. Jacob Hudson asks, ever sold merchandise you couldn't get back and regret it? Sure. There was a pin set that I recall that had the logos of like Blast Corps and Super Mario 64 and something else. And this guy came to me after watching a video, I think, or maybe I just posted getting it online. And it was a while after I got it. He had found the photo and he's like, "Can I buy these from you?" And he gave me some astronomical price, and I'm like, I don't know if I can turn that down for a pin set because I could buy so many of these other things. And I'm sure that there was something that I was looking at online at the time, and I'm like, oh, if I had a little bit more money, I'd buy that. So in my mind, I kind of like, okay, if he gives me the money, it's more like a trade for these other items I'm looking at, and I'd totally do that in a heartbeat. I have not seen that pin set since. Very rare. Nintendo 64, I think it was like 3 or 4 pins. It's like Wave Race 64, Blast Corps, and Mario 64, and maybe one other, maybe Banjo or something. But I haven't seen it since. I'm not like crying about it, but because I know the items that I got. I can't remember which ones I got at the time, but I'm sure they were awesome. So yeah, I mean, sometimes when you get rid of the stuff, you regret it. I mean, it's not like something it's nagging at me. I don't think that I've gotten rid of anything that I have had a hard time getting back if I ever sold it. So yeah. Amiibo King 64 says, what is your favorite Zelda item? I thought a lot about this, and I think it warrants its own video. So I'm going to have to do that at a different date. Sorry to put you on the back burner there, buddy, but that was a tough question. Like, what is your favorite Mario collectible? It's like, I don't know, all of it. But yeah, there's some Zelda stuff that's really, really awesome that I thought I'd never have that I do. Sam Panda says, what is the first piece that started it all? I've talked about this guy in numerous like Guinness videos, and the one that just came out from Barcroft. But this is the first figure that I think I got Mario-wise. And I got this right around the time the Super Mario Brothers Super Show was on, and I'd play around with him, but he was static. And then I got another one that jumped, had a turn up and whatever, so I could like kind of play around with it a little more. But it was this guy that pretty much kicked off the whole collection, because I wanted to know what other figures were in the set, because I found a couple more, and I only had a handful. So once I went on eBay and found the whole set and bought the whole set, then I was like, as I was finding those, I'd find other sets. And I'm like, well, I want that too. And then it kind of just snowballed, as the story goes. Okay, Acevedo Video Store asks, what have you bought cheap and gained value? Man, I could probably throw a stone in here and hit 3 items that have done that. There's probably 100 items in here that have done that. Every early first 4 figure statue I bought at a much lower price than they're worth now. Pretty much everything Zelda that I have that's not like modern era has risen in value exponentially. Like it's anything with Zelda on it's going to go nuts eventually. Anything with limited on it, I'm sure, has risen in value, which are a lot of items in here. Yeah, so that's kind of an easy one. There's also there's not too many items that I bought high and lost value. There's some that I regret buying at a high price, but now that I think about it, it's like they've gone up in value for the most part. I think just about everything in here, once it's out of print, which most of this stuff is, it's going to go up, right? That's just kind of the history of this merchandise, especially because it's coveted merchandise, right? Okay, we're at the last 2. Nicholas's Sonic Plushie channel asks, what's your favorite Kirby item? Maybe I'll do like a top 10 list of these favorite series. What is your favorite item? Top 10 items in each series that you have? Because I've got, the big ones: Mario, Zelda, Kirby, Donkey Kong, Mega Man. Those are kind of the really big ones, right, that I have in the room. But I have a lot of different series represented. But maybe the big series warrants their own top 10 videos. So I think that might be something that came out of this whole questionnaire thing, is like more video ideas. Cool. Gaming Chili Hedgehog, nice. How do you tell if something will increase in value? If it has the name Zelda on it. Boom. Limited. If it's limited, if it's hard to get when it comes out, that's easy to know. But those are the easy ways to answer that question. How do I know if something is going to be raising in value? Sometimes it's hard. If I see a ton of auctions that have the item for sale when it first releases, I know that it won't increase in value as much as something that you see 1 or 2 of. But I've missed a few. Like, especially on Yahoo Japan auctions, it's really hit or miss whether you're able to figure that out, if something's going to be really, really limited or if it's going to be really abundant. Like, take the Super Mario RPG plushes, for example. Like, I figured that those would be rare, but like the Mario Kart plushes, nowadays they're a little harder to find, but they were never rare when I was collecting them. Like, it was always kind of like, if I have the $20 to get one, I'll get one. And ended up with a full tagged set. So it's one of those things where it's tough to know in the moment what's going to raise in value later. Do I care about that? No. Is it nice when it happens? Yes. But I don't buy things to invest in them, I guess, essentially. I buy this stuff because I'm passionate about it, because I want to show you guys about it, because I want to talk about it. It's not about, I'm buying this because it'll be worth $50 later. I can't do that math. I don't care about that math. There may not even be a way to do that math, because it's hard to say. I know the limited stuff, like if it's limited to a certain amount, X number of ones will be damaged. I'm sure there's percentages and everything. X number of ones will be held on to, and X number of one will be scalped. You know what I mean? Like, so there's percentages out there, I'm sure, of ways to break down limited stuff based on the number that are made, like the first 4 figure statues or whatever, or anything like Club Nintendo or anything rare they're doing. But yeah, I just don't buy it to increase its value. I buy it because I value it in the moment. How's that? Okay, so thanks for everyone that wrote in. That was an awesome response to that whole call out for ideas. I'm really happy with that. I wasn't expecting. I was like, maybe a couple people will talk to me about stuff, but it's always something easy to talk about. So if you have more questions, keep them coming in. These videos are fun to do, and they're pretty easy for me. So they're nice filler ones for when I don't have a big video ready to go. But thanks for watching.